Ndị be anyị ka ụbọchị nke taa mara na anyị mma. Asị m na ọ ya bala okeke bala oke afọ. Asị m na ọ ya dịrị ndị Igbo niile na mma, na ya dịrị anyị Igbo na mma, na anyị nche ya dị ka echi, na echi ada agwụ agwụ, maka na onye Igbo ka anyị bụ. Ife anyị na-azọ bụ ka o esi dịrị anyị na mma, ọ bụrụ onye ji nke ya. Ma dịka o si dị, ihe a bụ Igbo midia ka anyị si wee na-ewetara unu nnukwu ozi ya dị oke mkpa gbasịta maka ihe na-eme na be anyị bụ ana Igbo, ana gbasịta maka ntọrọ ọdịda anyanwụ a na-akpọ Eastern Region, ya bụ Igbo midia. Dịka o si dị, o nwere ihe anyị ga-etinyere unu n'iru akwụkwọ gbasịta maka nnwere onwe a na-azọ, ihe Biafran Prime Minister kwuru n'iru akwụkwọ. Mma achọ ka Igbo mụrụ nze mụọ ọzọ, ka ndị Igbo ji biri, jegodi na ya bụ ife, gee na ya bụ ife, unu ga-esi ya, unu atụkpọ alụ, tinye uche nke unu, ife unu chere gbasịta maka ya bụ ife nwanne anyị nwoke bụ Simon Ekpa kwuru n'iru akwụkwọ. Ọ dị na ka o sikwu m n'ọnụ. Over to you, sir.
That is evolution of freedom and human rights. What was abolished, what was a dangerous thing 630 years ago has become your law today because somebody stood and said it. That's why, as a Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic Government in Exile, it does not matter what you call me today. What matters to me is what you call me after 10 years, when I have liberated my people. This is the reason many countries like Finland, who are well advanced, can't hand Simon Ekpa over to any terrorist country, like Nigeria, for standing firm, fighting and defending his people, and I stand to be challenged anywhere. Finland is living in the future. It's a fact. My fellow Biafrans, let me remind you that there is another great speech called "Let us make reparation to Africa." Reparation is today word that many human rights activists, many freedom fighters are preaching freely. Including in the British Empire, citing inhuman practices as an effusion of human blood. Then, the advocacy of Wilberforce was so dangerous, become a threat to the British Empire. 2 years before Wilberforce made the speech, 132 African slaves were thrown into the sea from a slave ship. Hence, the reference to human blood. He criticized the use of violence and tyranny among seamen and merchants towards slaves, and cited his belief in the commandment, "Thou shalt not murder," as the source of his abolitionist belief. Wilberforce also argued, "Thou shalt do no murder," as the source of his abolitionist belief. He argued that such cruel trade could not possibly be regulated or conducted in a human way. Total abolition is the only possible cure, he argued. This speech made by Wilberforce made any plea of ignorance on the part of his fellow MPs at the House of Commons of the United Kingdom, made them untenable. The callousness of the slave trade was revealed for all to see for the very first time. The campaign of Wilberforce and others to bring to an end to slavery was a very hard fight. They fought it. This speech was a significant moment in bringing about the British West Indies in 1807 and the Slavery Abolition Act in 1833, which abolished slavery throughout the British Empire. This is evolution of freedom. I want you to pay attention to today's State of the Union, where we are making history the way it is, to make sure we save our people from the hand of the Nigeria Islamic State. We will make a very tough decisions as we move on from today going forward. This decision will later become history. So I'm making references to the other heroes and heroines of this world, who at the time of their own freedom fighting, everything they did became abominable, only for what they did to become the law that guides the universe today. It is the evolution of freedom fighting and freedom. It is important to educate our people while we are taking the steps of the Biafra government. The Biafra government are taking the step it's taking today, is that we have figured out what will work for us against Nigeria. It is also very important to educate our people how history are made as we go to the poll for our self-referendum, because they continue to ask, is US supporting you? Is America supporting you? Do you have a European Union observers? And I have told them we don't need any of those observers. We are conducting this referendum by ourselves, and we are going to declare Biafra, defend it with every mechanism that we have, and it will go down in history as Biafran used every mechanism to liberate themselves from Nigeria Islamic State. In the United States, a woman had no right to vote in an election until a woman called Susan Anthony fought for it. Somebody somewhere have to always stood up and fight. Somebody somewhere had always stood up to fight before change could happen. That is exactly what the Prime Minister of Biafra Republic Government in Ezra, Simon Ekpa, and the entire cabinet and the entire government in exile are doing today. Somebody somewhere have to start this fight, and it will be successful at the end of the day. When you remain resolute and never change your principle according to who you meet. The question Susan Anthony asked in one of her famous speech was, are women person? Susan Anthony was an American suffragette and a co-founder of the National Women Suffrage Association, a group that fought for women's right to vote in the United States. In 1872, she became the first American woman to vote in an election. Listen, just 1872, women didn't have the right to vote in America. 1872. This woman took it upon herself to fight and liberated women from the shackles of the American system that made them lesser human. She became the first American woman to vote in an election, albeit illegally. She was charged in January of 1873 for voting without a lawful right to vote. Though she wasn't allowed to speak, even to defend herself in the court. She made this speech of our women person in the month running up to her trial. In the speech, she argued that in voting, she was simply exercising her right, citizens' right. Quoting the U.S. Constitution, she pointed out that it was not the white male citizens that formed the Union of the States of America, but we, the people, and that as a person, she deserved the right to participate in democracy. Are women person? She famously asked. If so, she then argued, they are citizens of the United States. Why then should they not have the right to vote? I want you to listen to understand the evolution of freedom. Before she did it, nobody ever stood up to fight for women's rights to vote in the United States. She took it upon herself. That she campaigned for. She also argued that black people should have right to vote, since they also are persons and choose U.S. citizens. This idea of personhood may seem very simple, but Susan Anthony's argument and voting and kicking against the freedom of Biafra, equality before the law, was her radical aspiration. Despite her cogent argument, she was found guilty. She was found guilty for rising up against the system of $100. You know what is $100? As far back as 1870 something. $100. That should be millions of dollars today. She refused to pay that fine and continued to campaign voraciously for female suffrage, a battle that was eventually won in 1919. From 1870 something to 1919, she won the battle against the women exclusion in the United States democracy. Today, many Biafrans in the United States, many Biafrans of Nigeria, because the Biafrans in the United States are supporting what we're doing today. Many women from Biafra of Nigeria are enjoying the voting right in America, but a woman like you fought for it. My respect to those Biafran women who are deeply involved in the Biafran government. You are making history as part of the evolution of freedom for a better society. Suzanne Best quote, I declare to you that women must not depend on the protection of man, but must freedom, and it is my right to fight and protect my people, and that I will do until our freedom is achieved. While in Africa today, many countries in Africa are against same-sex marriage. I want you to understand the evolution of freedom because of our culture in Africa. But let me remind you that America was there centuries ago. Where Africa is today, America was there centuries ago. And let me also make it very clear, I am not advocating for same-sex marriage. I am only taking you back to the history and the evolution of freedom. This, what American government, including the President of America, is supporting today. Of course, not Donald Trump. But those, Obama, Biden, and co, supporting today was abomination in America centuries ago. A man called Oscar Wilde, in his speech, Love That Dare Not Speak Its Name. This renewed speech by Oscar Wilde, made during his trial for gross indecency with other male person. This is perhaps one of the most emotional and poignant speech ever made. In it, Wilde Oscar described his love for Lord Alfred Douglas as such a great affection of an elder man for a young man. Choose the love that dare not speak its name. He described his love as beautiful, fine, and noblest form of affection. But Wilde Oscar explained the word does not understand it. He explained that the world back then.
And by Darun Linen, Igbo media, I see when I would take on Nupozia do Kemba. The guy si Kununkwa, and the guy si Nabambo, I would ike in a new update. Buye Bastama Kifene Mena and Igbo Bay, and the Modo Winkanazo. Or Yabunkwa, I put on, and I can name is here. I was at the Kibiabo. I watch a year kita in Nina Kobia from Prime Minister. Go again, Soku, no dinkegi. Nanchukota Morgan. Kali will detail in here. Mako Kia Ganes in a messy. What a bear equaten and boyano. What a by Slynol. But a Babylon's net president. A Babylon vice president. Nothing. And the new Muyindini Megasquano, Umuna is so good about Famba. Mako Kiva, they make it as Adrozi Asimo getting a messy or the Carlo. Aracho the email. Negodin Kobodo City. Came a one night woke up Mazin and the cannon and Boro. Akomakandibo. Can you Joe Miller? Macos na Nibo Gadi, Macos na Gadi, Nagadi Kitchen, nature that wago. What do you say, Gigi? Joe Gadra. Guinea Gigi the Mazin and the cannon. Akomacos Nibo Yadi. Because to give up today if I bow, it won't be dear. I know snow no buy, or no bike I know. So be carbonate and Nibo. You will one again. Or no bike I jack over your name ever. Kago kwa ni aine before. Une okuniwe. Kifonye ndumelo. Osini yane mbombe ndi Igbo na-abịa n'alụ ọ na-ewute ya. Simon Ekpapinia anyị agbaba ya mgba ka e mere obedient movement. Akwụwụrụ okwu Maazị Nnamdi Kanu kwuru before ejide ya. They will never give you that president, that seat. Akwụdoro na ya na Peter Obi winere mana nyere ya. Gịnị ka ha si ya bụ mba. Igbo mara na ife maka oke esi na-ekwuzi okwu ọka ife ga na-esi na-emezi. Ọ bụ na ịkpọrọ onwe gị mitin, chụkọ onwe gị ọnụ, jụọ onwe gị ajụ a ka ebe ịkwụ n'obodo a bụ Naijiria. Ajụ nchọkwa onye ọbụla bụ onye Igbo na-ege m ntị n'elu akwụkwọ a jụọ onwe ya, na na-ejicha onwe gị ya bụ ife isaa ya. Ọgwụna ka m n'ọnụ. Ihe a bụ Igbo Media. Daalụ.